Ooh, boy. Okay, all right. Little after dark. Being after dark. It wasn't dark at 11:30 this morning, but I decided to jump on here and post this one tonight because I felt it was necessary um, with the news of the day. So, I'm gonna have to update a couple things here. I added these pictures here, had those, and that guy's no longer here. He's actually on that sign too, right? It's tough with the finger there. Um, how should I begin? Told you so. Maybe that's how we begin this one. Look, I'm not asking for to be uh, or called Nostradamus or whatever the case might be. And I'm not sitting here saying that I expected them to trade him today or this offseason to Houston for what they got. Yeah, I had no idea that was going to happen. But what was on the table after we lost to the Chiefs was a move in some regard, whether it was a trade or a release in some regard. And I took Bean's lack of potentially restructuring his contract before the league year started or into the league year by a certain day and time that his days were numbered. And at that point, I thought, okay, this is going to be the last year of Stefon Diggs as a Buffalo Bill. And I was obviously wrong in that aspect, but I've had to talk a couple folks off the ledge today. I feel that there's going to be a big sense of relief from the organization, from coaching staff, from my phone is still blowing up. 9 o'clock. From the quarterback. Josh isn't talking. Bean had his press conference at 4 o'clock, where I think he said a lot by the words that he said and what he didn't say. And I'll get to that in just a second. So just obviously to recap, everybody knows the story by now. Diggs goes to Houston for a 2024 6th-round pick this year, which I think we had 3. A 25 5th-round pick, and we get a 25 2nd-round pick, obviously next year. That is Minnesota's pick. So who knows what that pick could be. It could be the 37th pick. It could be the 47th pick. I don't think it's going to be anything above 55. So a pretty decent pick. That being said, I don't think that we're going to draft that draft pick. I think that there's a bigger plan here, which, excuse me again, I'll get to that in just a minute. $31.1 million dead cap hit that we take on right now, today, this year. The biggest non-quarterback dead cap hit in NFL history. So, breaking that down, I think it says a lot. I think it says that for the majority of the last 2 months, Brandon Bean has had in his head that I need to move Stefon Diggs. I need to go about it in a very low-key way to get back as much as I can in terms of, draft capital or maybe a player involved, whatever. So when Brandon Bean comes out a month and a half, or not even a month ago, just before the start of the league year, right around there, where he said, it might have actually been the postseason press conference, where he said, I still believe Stefon Diggs is a number 1 wide receiver in this league, and he said it very confidently but nonchalant type vibe to it. If he came out and said, "Yeah, I don't know," the value goes down. The value goes down. Other teams know that you don't value that player in that regard anymore. So why should I give up a second round pick or a third round pick or a one or whatever the case is, right? The haul, whatever you want to call a haul, goes down in value for that player if he's traded. So his approach in that regard was great. I think that they got to a point with Steph. There's two ways. First of all, I think Steph asked for a trade based off of what Bean didn't say today. How he deflected and said, "I don't want to get into that." Okay, that means that he asked for a trade. And in our eyes, the organization meaning, it's, okay, Steph, you don't want to be here anymore. We've given you everything you possibly could have wanted. You were our bona fide number one receiver. You got the ball. You got a huge contract extension. We've given you everything. You've become a captain of the team. You were a vocal leader. Everything a player in your position could want, you got. We couldn't have done anything more to make you happy as a Buffalo Bill. So if you don't want to be here, that's on you. And we're going to try and make it right on you because that's who we are as an organization. And that's who Brandon Bean is. I don't know what this whole little like thing is. As a general manager. So I think that happened. On top of whether that was in the last week, last month, season, exit interviews, whatever the case is, what made it easier to respond to that request was a couple of things. I think as an organization that they just got fed up with his antics off the field. Whether you want to believe that or not, that's up to you. But I think that, and it's funny because the guy just tweeted last night, "You sure?" The whole thing about does Allen make him or did he make Allen type of thing that RG3 said. I think they got sick of it. I think they got sick of it that every time you turned on ESPN, FS1, your sports news platforms, it's all anybody talked about, especially in the offseason, of Diggs isn't happy, he has trouble with his quarterback, there's underlying things, I've heard this, his brother's spouting off, all that stuff. All that stuff, okay? All of it takes its toll. And in my opinion, when it first started, they could deal with it because he was still producing on the field. So it's okay, we'll put up with the shenanigans and the fashion outlets and the tweets and the whatevers because he's still a highly, highly, highly productive player for us and in this league. And not to mention he's 28, 29 years old. Okay. But as years went on and his production over the last 2 years in the regular season fell off a canyon cliff after Halloween the last 2 years. Now all of a sudden, those antics become a little bit more annoying because now you're not getting the return for putting up with the bullshit, right? Coupled with the lack of performance when it matters most in the playoffs. So let's put all this together here, okay? And you're not going to get this anywhere else. So I'm happy that you're here. I have a going on 31-year-old wide receiver for the last 2 years have shown me that as the seasons have gone on and the body breaks down a little bit more, the production falls off. Not tails off, falls off. He's also has some sort of animosity towards my quarterback. There's something there. 1,000% there's something there. He's also a really highly paid player on our team. He has huge cap numbers. He's also been a little bit dinged up the last couple of years. Maybe that's one of the reasons as to why the production has dipped. But Father Time is undefeated. The lack of playoff performance. In my eyes, those are the reasons why they made the move that they made today. You add all that up. The guy just simply wasn't the player he used to be. And spare me with this, wow, Joe Brady, and they made a fundamental change to running the football more. We're literally talking like single digit mores, 4 or 5 times more a game. Diggs had plenty of games where he had 8 to 12 targets and simply just couldn't catch the football. I saw a stat today that over the last 7 weeks of the season, Diggs' drop percentage went up to 13%. I said in my videos yesterday that drop percentage is one of my biggest things this offseason. 13% of the time, Stefon Diggs making $27 million as a captain dropped the football. That's about 6 to 7 more percentage points higher than I want it to be. Why? Again, maybe those routes just aren't as crisp later in the season. Maybe he's aging. It happens. I sound like Alan Coward. But that's the damn truth. That's what it is. So, you want to believe whatever narrative you want to believe, go right ahead. What I just laid out for you is absolute fact. There is no denying it because it's based on numbers, and numbers do not lie. They don't. If this team had more success in the playoffs, if this team beat the Chiefs and went on to the AFC Championship game and who knows, won that game and won it all or got to a Super Bowl, maybe they don't make that move. But part of this whole, we've now lost in 3 straight years in the same exact game at the same exact time of the season. And something has to change. Look at what they've done. Look at what they've done in the last 3 weeks. Mitch Morris, captain, gone. I didn't agree with it. I didn't. That's the one move that I would not have made. Right? Jordan Poyer, gone. Trey White, gone. Micah Hyde, still a free agent, but not on the roster. Right? Now we move Diggs. It's like 5 captains. 4 captains right there. So, the fundamental change that they're doing it all at once. Instead of maybe here, maybe a little bit there. Because now all of a sudden you do that, you blink, your quarterback's 32 or 33 years old. And you've wasted the prime. This draft is the most loaded receiver draft that the league has seen in quite some time. It's been said. I'm not saying that I'm the first one saying that. It has been said by every single pundit, by every single expert, by a lot of general managers and personnel guys and staffs and whatnot, organizations. So wouldn't it make sense to move on from the receiver that you're moving on from, knowing that you're going to replace him plus, right? To have as much ammunition as possible. If that means you're going to move up in this year's draft, if that means you're going to now, and move up also can mean not just in the first round, second round, third round, picking up a third. It can mean anything. Maybe it means we have 20 picks in the next 2 years. Something like that. 21 picks in the next 2 years now. Maybe that means they take a big chunk of those picks and they throw them at a receiver like they did Diggs with Minnesota. Am I sitting here on April 3rd at 9:12 p.m. saying that the Bills are going to trade for Justin Jefferson in the next half hour? I'm not saying that. Would I be surprised? I wouldn't. That's how Bean operates. Is that the move that I would do? Yeah, it would be, actually, if you want to ask me, because then I could just pay the guy. We created $27.3 million in cap space next year. Next year, by making the move we made today. What's a going rate for a bona fide sub receiver on the free agent market? Now, there's not a lot of them that get to that point. But if I were to spend $27.3 million in cap space, I'd give it to Justin Jefferson. Would you? So, again, having these picks allows Bean multiple opportunities. Let me rephrase that. Multiple opportunities to bring in wide receiver talent. Draft multiple draft picks, draft in a trade, draft in a post-June first cut. Who knows how? That's where they're at. That's why they made the move. We're better for it. We're better for it. It boggles my mind that so many people can't. They look at the name. I'm not sitting here saying that Steph Diggs was not a productive player for us in the 4 years that he was here. He definitely was. He's one of the most productive receivers we've had for a career as a Bill ever. Ever. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying the player. I love the player. He was a guy that, knowing that you had him week in and week out, he was going to give you a better chance to win games. Absolutely. And we won a ton of them. But what it boils down to is, like I said, and I'll just do a quick little recap. Money, cap, hits, which is in turn money, age, performance, lack thereof. And at the same time, something that probably hasn't been talked all that much about, maybe part of this, probably not a huge percentage, but part of this was Brandon Beane saying, and McDermott, the rest of the staff saying, you know what? Kind of sick and tired of having my quarterback have to fucking answer for this shit every single offseason, every single training camp. It's a distraction. Because it is. Face it, it is. Let's give our quarterback, the player on our team who matters the most, the player on anybody's team that matters the most, we know that, But the player who we ask the most out of since he's put on our helmet, maybe let's lighten his load a little bit, just from a mental standpoint. Again, it got to this point, and they did something about it. And if I'm wrong and Steph didn't request a trade, and this was just saying, hey, I want to be proactive here, take my losses where I'm going to take them with a $31.1 million dead cap that I'm just going to rip and insert into right now. I've already allocated that money. It's already going to Steph this year. Yeah, you're not going to play for me. I'm paying you $31.1 million not to play for me this year, and that's it. So when I look at my books in 25, I look at my books in 26, I don't see Steph Diggs. I don't see a number next to his name. That's smart general managing. It is. So, what this means moving forward, obviously, in my opinion, again, I can see it going a bunch of different ways. I can see them taking a swing in the draft and moving up 18 spots to the 10th pick and taking one of those top 3 guys. Rome would be my guy, but I could see them trading into the high teens, low 20s, taking a Brian Thomas. I could see them standing pat, taking an Xavier Leggett, and then taking a receiver in the second round. I could see them trading up, say to 14, 15, something like that, if there was a fall by one of those guys. Or if they're just completely sold on, again, I'm going to keep saying his name, Brian Thomas, and then trading up from 60 in the second round to a higher spot in the second round, 37th overall, to take a Xavier Worthy, to take a Javon Baker, to take a Adonai Mitchell if he's there. I've said it for multiple months that the way that this team gets better and gets over the hump is they need to take 2 receivers in this year's draft. I just said yesterday that the second receiver took a little bit of a backseat because they brought in Samuel. That was obviously with the knowledge that Steph Diggs was going to be on the roster. Not the case anymore. So guess what? By removing Steph, I have now created 2 holes. That was 4. 2 holes at receiver. Because they're going to carry 6. Right? Samuel, Shakir. Holland's 1-year deal, okay. Shorter, okay. But legitimate production type guys, there's 2 holes. Kincaid's targets are going to increase. He had 91 last year. He's going to be 110, 120. No doubt in my mind. But, and who knows? Again, I could hit stop recording this, post it, and go lay down upstairs, and all of a sudden, Being After Dark decides to ship off 4 picks to Minnesota for Justin Jefferson. Bean decides to ship off a second-round pick next year they just acquired for T. Higgins. Pays him. Are those the routes that I would, is the T. Higgins thing a thing that I would do? I like T. Higgins a lot. I know I got to pay him a boatload of money. So I'd rather go the young route. If I'm getting Justin Jefferson, it's a different ballgame. A different ballgame. He's the best receiver in the league. But something funny that I heard, I forgot what radio I was listening to, but caller mentioned the Green Bay Packers. Moved on from Devontae Adams a couple years ago. Obviously moved on from Rodgers, took a huge cap hit dead cap hit. And they took all these young receivers, bing, 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 and you look at them now. Don't tell me it's not overcomable. Don't tell me that this team is going to be worse than it was last year or not a playoff team anymore. Couple things. A, Vegas has them post-Diggs trade as still the favorite to win the division. They're still the fourth team in the league for Super Bowl odds. That's without Steph Diggs. Take Diggs' production, touchdown production away last year. Do you know what quarterback still leads the league in touchdowns? The conference in touchdowns? Don't tell me that this team is now all of a sudden some 500 middle of the road football team because they lost a going on 31-year-old receiver with declining production. Because you're wrong. And you're letting your emotions getting the best of you. Because so long as they have Josh Allen at quarterback, this team's championship window will be open. And the people who know football, really know it, know that. And see the same thing. So, that's my 2 pennies. What am I at here? 127 minutes. Yeah, I want to do a half hour. The next 3 weeks are going to be fun. They're going to be fun. We are 3 weeks away tomorrow. Today would be draft eve. We're 3 weeks away from draft eve as we sit here right now. And it's going to be... It just got a whole lot. But I mean, obviously, I'm always excited for the draft. It's one of the best times of the year. It's one of the best events of the year. But now more than ever. Because this team has an opportunity to propel itself to be one of the best teams in the league for the next 4 to 5 years. If they hit correctly in this draft. And even in the next draft too. But specifically this draft. So, that's what I got. Appreciate the listen, the follow, the likes, the subscribes, the whole kit and caboodle. And we'll do a maybe this calls for a mock draft next week or sometime in the very near future, because we can move around and jump around and use picks from future years. I gotta see if there's a simulator out there that has like the 2025 picked and things like that. Pick that time. Alright, boys and girls. As always, go Bills. Everything's fine. Everything couldn't be finer, in my opinion. I am happier than a pig in shit. It's the last thing I'll say. Go Bills. See you next time.